Good afternoon. It's the 5th of April. I'm Erin Viner, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. After days of scathing reaction to the P5+1 nuclear framework deal reached with Iran, several former security officials are expressing different viewpoints. Former Mossad chief Ephraim Halevi told Israel Radio today that there are several positive factors in the understandings, including the requirement that Iran's Natanz facility will decrease the number of centrifuges that it's already stockpiled and not to produce any newer generational ones. At the same time, he cautioned that it is difficult to trust the reliability of international inspections of Iran's nuclear activities. Former military intelligence chief Amos Yadlin told Army Radio that the framework accord could delay the Iranian nuclear program for many years and shouldn't be considered a bad deal. He stressed that the final agreement must address military dimensions of nuclear development in the country, noting that Tehran still has a long way to go before it will be able to clear its reputation in the international community. But meanwhile, the America-Israel Public Affairs Lobby Group in Washington today issued a statement strongly objecting to the Lausanne Accord and called for it to be brought before Congress for approval. AIPAC is concerned that a permanent agreement based on the framework deal may leave the Islamic Republic on the verge of producing nuclear bombs that could spark an atomic arms race in the Middle East. U.S. President Barack Obama has declared the initial nuclear understanding with Iran to be an historic opportunity. In an address to the American people, Obama claimed that once completed, the agreement will prevent Tehran from obtaining atomic weapons, but he cautioned that the deal is not yet done.
This week, together with our allies and partners, we reached a historic understanding with Iran, which, if fully implemented, will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon and make our country, our allies, and our world safer. This framework is the result of tough, principled diplomacy. It's a good deal, a deal that meets our core objectives, including strict limitations on Iran's program and cutting off every pathway that Iran could take to develop a nuclear weapon. This deal denies Iran the plutonium necessary to build a bomb. It shuts down Iran's path to a bomb using enriched uranium. Iran has agreed that it will not stockpile the materials needed to build a weapon. Moreover, international inspectors will have unprecedented access to Iran's nuclear program because Iran will face more inspections than any other country in the world. If Iran cheats, the world will know it. If we see something suspicious, we will inspect it. So this deal is not based on trust. It is based on unprecedented verification. And this is a long-term deal with strict limits on Iran's program for more than a decade and unprecedented transparency measures that will last for 20 years or more. And as a member of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, Iran will never be permitted to develop a nuclear weapon. In return for Iran's actions, the international community, including the United States, has agreed to provide Iran with phased relief from certain sanctions. If Iran violates the deal, sanctions can be snapped back into place. Meanwhile, other American sanctions on Iran for its support of terrorism, its human rights abuses, its ballistic missile program, all will continue to be enforced. As I said this week, many key details will need to be finalized over the next 3 months, and nothing is agreed to until everything is agreed. And if there's backsliding, there will be no deal. Here in the United States, I expect a robust debate. We'll keep Congress and the American people fully briefed on the substance of the deal. As we engage in this debate, let's remember, we really only have 3 options for dealing with Iran's nuclear program. Bombing Iran's nuclear facilities, which will only set its program back a few years while starting another war in the Middle East. Abandoning negotiations and hoping for the best with sanctions, even though that's always led to Iran making more progress in its nuclear program. Or a robust and verifiable deal like this one that peacefully prevents Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. As President and Commander-in-Chief, I firmly believe that the diplomatic option, a comprehensive long-term deal like this, is by far the best option for the United States, for our allies, and for the world. Our work, this deal, is not yet done. Diplomacy is painstaking work. Success is not guaranteed. But today we have a historic opportunity to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons in Iran and to do so peacefully. with the international community firmly behind us. And this will be our work in the days and months ahead, in keeping with the best traditions of American leadership.
In a tangible sign of U.S.-Israel security cooperation, two American destroyers, the USS Laboon and the USS Ross, are currently docked in the Haifa port. The warships are taking part in a regional exercise and came to the country to refuel and for the crew to enjoy some shore leave. We get more in this report from IBA's Dennis Zen.
It was not the agreement with Iran or other geopolitical issues, but rather the discovery of matzah, the traditional Passover food, that was on the minds of the crew members of the American destroyer USS Laboon, which is currently docked in Haifa.
It's actually pretty good. Tasty. Good.
The Laboon and its sister vessel, the destroyer USS Ross, which are taking part in a regional defensive exercise, arrived a few days ago and invited the press on board.
We have our vertical launch system that holds missiles that, the cell hatch opens and it shoots out vertically. We have torpedo tubes, we have harpoons, we have our phalanx weapon system.
Both vessels, which are part of the permanent U.S. deployment in the Eastern Mediterranean, are on high alert due to the rapidly changing character of the Middle East over recent years. They're equipped with an array of the most advanced weaponry, including Tomahawk cruise missiles that have an accurate killing range of some 2,500 kilometers.
And we certify, we do all the training on the East Coast before we come over here. So we have small weapons to protect ourselves against small threats, and then the larger caliber weapons and the missile systems we have to protect us if there was something more significant.
And besides their vast defensive capabilities, the U.S. fleet members are also trained to carry out humanitarian missions.
Think about things like the tsunamis or hurricanes that we've seen over the past decade. Ships may be doing counter-piracy and have to pivot at a moment's notice to go do a humanitarian mission. They may not have been originally tasked to do that, but because of the training that we've received, you go wherever you are tasked. If we are needed to go provide humanitarian support.
But for now, the American sailors are docked in Haifa for refueling, a well-earned rest, and a taste of the Jewish festival of Passover.
Happy Passover, Israel, from USS Laboon.
Dennis Zin, IBA News.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says that he is prepared to negotiate with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu because he represents Israel. In an interview with the Arabic language Kul al-Arab news outlet, Abbas said that Netanyahu's pre-election talk against the establishment of a Palestinian state was harmful and bad, but said that he doesn't have a problem holding talks with the Israeli Prime Minister because his own hand is always extended in peace. The Palestinian leader said that Israel has a great deal to gain if it would agree to the Arab Peace Initiative and pointed out that great headway had been achieved in meetings with former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert in 2009. He then professed his own continued support of a two-state solution that he said would ensure peace and security for the Israeli people. An Israeli official responded to Abbas' comments by saying that if he proclaims that his hand is extended in peace, then why is he still holding the hand of the Hamas terror organization? Because you cannot do both. Police have launched an investigation after one mourner was trampled to death and 3 others were critically injured during a funeral for leading Hasidic Rabbi Shmuel Halevi Vosner, who died at the age of 102. The arbiter of Jewish law was one of the most respected figures in the ultra-Orthodox world, who died in a Bnei Brak hospital Friday evening, shortly after the start of the Passover holiday. Tens of thousands of mourners attended the service in the city last night that ended in tragedy despite the presence of hundreds of police officers when over 100 people were injured during a crush caused by extreme overcrowding at the entrance of the rabbi's Lachamei Lublin yeshiva. The dead man was identified as 27-year-old Moti Garber from the community of Elad. Rabbi Vosner was born in Vienna and immigrated to Mandatory Palestine before the start of the Second World War. Among his works was the multi-volume Shevet Halevi Commentary on Jewish Law. Chief Ashkenazi Rabbi David Lau described Rabbi Vosner as one of the greatest rabbinical leaders of recent generations, and he called his death a painful loss for the Jewish people. In other news, retired Supreme Court President Dorit Benish has agreed to take on the post of chair for the public committee being formed to recommend legislative reform of advertising during election campaigns. Benish was appointed by President Reuven Rivlin and Central Election Committee head Judge Salim Jubran. According to Rivlin, the current law is anachronistic and doesn't take the new social media into consideration. Judge Jubran underscored that point, saying that the campaign law needs to be adjusted to reflect the new reality that most electioneering is now being waged on the internet. In regional news, the Islamic State has released a video showing its terrorist forces destroying ancient artifacts and buildings in Iraq's ancient city of Hatra. According to officials at the UNESCO World Heritage Site, ISIS fighters were seen using sledgehammers, pickaxes, and rifle butts to destroy priceless statues, archways, and pillars in the Mesopotamian city that's located about 320 kilometers away from Baghdad. Last month, ISIS desecrated relics at other ancient sites, including the 2,700-year-old city of Khorsabad, Nineveh, and Nimrud. The Islamic State currently has control over some of the richest archaeological treasures in the world, and its narrow Sunni Muslim theology considers other religions and branches of Islam to be heresy, thus leading to the group's systematic destruction of historic temples, shrines, manuscripts, sculpture, and carvings. UN officials are also accusing the jihadis of wide-scale looting and selling some of the artifacts to help to fund their terrorist regime. And meanwhile, ISIS has now become the most powerful insurgent group in neighboring Syria and gained a major foothold just a few kilometers away from President Bashar al-Assad's seat of power. The radical extremists have seized about 90% of the Yarmouk Palestinian refugee camp on the outskirts of Damascus, where the 18,000 remaining civilians have already endured years of bombings and a military siege because of their own anti-regime resistance during the more than 4 years of civil war. The commander of the Palestinian fighters within the camp told media that there are at least 2,000 armed Palestinians battling around 800 to 900 ISIS insurgents in attempts to regain control of Yarmouk. United Nations officials are expressing extreme concern over the deteriorating condition of the camp's inhabitants because of the warfare, as well as the severe lack of food, water, and electricity, saying that international help is key for their survival.
What we now need is unified political action. We need political differences by the main powers in the world to be put aside. They need to come together to save lives, because the credibility of the international system is at risk. Yarmouk is a challenge to all of us, to the international system in particular, and the international system must not fail. It must not let down the people of Yarmouk and beyond.
Pro-government fighters in Yemen are succeeding in their efforts to repel the invasion by Houthi rebels in Aden, following an airdrop of weapons and ammunition by the Saudi-led coalition over the past 48 hours. The forces fighting under the name of the Popular Committee appear to be largely in control of much of the strategic southern Gulf city located at the eastern approach to the Red Sea. The Iranian-backed Shiite Houthis captured the capital, Sana'a, in September and have since expanded territory under their control with the help of militiamen who remain loyal to the former president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, who was deposed in 2011. The current leader, Abd Rabu Mansour Hadi, fled the country on March 25th as the Houthis advanced on Aden and is believed to have arrived in Riyadh as Saudi Arabia began its bombing campaign in support of his government. Survivors of the horrific Islamist massacre in Kenya have been brought to Nairobi for reunification with their relatives. 148 mostly Christian students were singled out and murdered during the attack by masked al-Shabaab gunmen at the Garissa University campus on Thursday. Many of the 79 others who were wounded remain in critical condition, and a still unknown number of students and staff on campus are still missing. The al-Qaeda-affiliated terrorists claim responsibility for the attack that they say is in retribution for Kenya having sent troops into Somalia to fight alongside other African Union peacekeepers.
We tell those that believe a caliphate is possible in Kenya that we are one indivisible, sovereign and democratic state. That fact will never change. Our forefathers bled and died for this nation, and we will do everything to defend our way of life. The radicalization that breeds terrorism is not conducted in the bush at night. It occurs in the full glare of day, in homes, in madrasas, and in mosques with rogue imams. We must ask the question, where are the parents and families of those who are being radicalized? Where is the community leadership? Where is the political leadership? Where is the religious leadership? The government must get the information and cooperation of all these parties if we are to effectively combat the terrorists. It is a fact that our task of countering terrorism work has been made all the more difficult by the fact that the planners and financiers of this brutality are deeply embedded in our communities and were seen previously as ordinary harmless people. We will not allow them to continue their lives as normal. The full force of the law will be brought to bear with even greater intensity than has been the case in previous years.
The retrial of Egypt's former president Hosni Mubarak and his two sons Alaa and Gamal is underway at a police academy in Cairo, this time on allegations that they diverted public funds for the renovation of their private properties. The 86-year-old Mubarak has been in detention since being toppled from power in an 18-day uprising during the so-called 2011 Arab Spring. The following year, he was sentenced to life in prison for not halting the killing of protesters, but that verdict was later overturned on a technicality. Since that time, he's been tried and retried on a series of corruption and embezzlement charges. Mubarak remains at a military hospital in the Egyptian capital, while his sons were released pending additional proceedings.
Hi, everybody. This is a special weekend for Americans across the country and people around the world. It's a chance
After hosting his 7th Seder at the White House, U.S. President Barack Obama offered his best wishes for both the Passover and Easter holidays.
Hey, everybody. This is a special weekend for Americans across the country and people around the world. It's a chance to spend time with family, to celebrate miracles from days gone by, and to reflect on the blessings God has granted us in our lives. On Friday night, I hosted a Passover Seder at the White House. Michelle and I joined Jewish families in America, Israel, and around the world as we retold the story of an awesome God who liberated a nation with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm and set them on their journey towards the promised land. It's a tale that has been passed down from generation to generation, and it's given strength and courage to countless men and women over the years, from Jews facing anti-Semitism to the brave young civil rights leaders who led our own country's march towards justice and equality. Easter is a day of hope, in a season of hope. It's a reaffirmation of our belief, not just as Christians, but as Americans, that better days are always ahead of us. Whether we're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, or Buddhist, whether faith in God shapes our daily lives completely or not at all, we believe that with common effort and shared sacrifice, a brighter future is just around the bend. And we embrace our obligation to do something meaningful, something lasting, with the precious time we've been allotted on this earth. I hope you feel as joyful and blessed as I do this weekend. And I hope that among our many blessings, we pause and give thanks for the chance to live in a country where everyone has the right to worship and pray and love as they choose. Almighty God hath created the mind free, Thomas Jefferson once wrote, and the free expression of our minds, our ideas, our faith, and our beliefs has only made our democracy stronger in the centuries since. So, to my Jewish friends, happy Passover. To all Christians celebrating tomorrow, happy Easter. And to every American, have a wonderful weekend.
As the Christian community in the Western world today celebrates Easter, hundreds of others following the Eastern Orthodox calendar today attended services marking Palm Sunday in the Holy Land. Here in Jerusalem, the faithful gathered at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where they believe that Jesus was crucified, entombed, and resurrected. They waved palm fronds and branches to commemorate the day that they believe Jesus made a triumphant return to the city. Others gathered at the Church of Nativity in Bethlehem, where tradition holds to be the site of Jesus' birth. They also waved palm fronds to celebrate the festive event that comes 1 week before the Eastern Orthodox commemoration of the Easter holiday, which is the most important occasion for all Christian communities. The tiny Christian community in Gaza also held Palm Sunday ceremonies at the Orthodox Church, which is one of the only 2 Christian houses of worship in the Hamas-run Palestinian territory. Tens of thousands of Israelis and visitors enjoyed this weekend's beautiful spring weather and were able to get a little exercise after their food-filled Seder dinners. The nation's parks and nature reserves were packed at the start of the Pesach holiday. Families hiked along trails above the Dead Sea, and many took advantage of the warm temperatures to even have a dip in the area's freshwater pools. One of the most popular venues in the north was the Carmel Mountain District, and trekkers climbed along the hilly paths where, sadly, many signs of the horrific forest fire there 5 years ago are still evident. And as we see, roe deer at the High Bar Nature Reserve were undeterred by onlookers and didn't allow anyone to interrupt their daily meal. Now taking a look at local finance, and with no foreign currency trading on Sundays, the shekel remains the same, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange started off the trading week with a mixed performance. Here's a look at the afternoon numbers. The IBA weather team tells us that tomorrow we're going to feel the beginning of a heat wave that's headed our way, with a rise in temperatures mainly in the mountainous and inland regions. Here's a look at the forecast at home and abroad over the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Laura Cornfield will be at this desk tomorrow to bring you the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a wonderful evening. Moedim L'Simcha. Happy Easter to our Christian viewers, and Shalom from Jerusalem.